Welcome to Talk Local. My name is Martin Bosch, and I am going to be your host this evening. Talk Local is your issue-based program that provides topics that are of interest to the viewers. The question is for this evening, what is the next chapter of the University of Guelph? Within the past year, there has been a massive turnover at the executive level. And that is, we have a new president. We have 3 new vice presidents who are now leading the University of Guelph, located here in the heart in the city of Guelph. The University of Guelph now is asking for assistance to make the right decisions that could benefit Guelph, Canada, and the world with leading-edge teaching and scientific research. As a result, Franco Vaccarino is calling for input called strategic renewal. And that is, what should our institution look like 5 or 10 years from now? And here to address that question and others, I've invited Franco. Welcome to the program, who is the President and Vice Chancellor, University of Guelph. And of course, I have Charlotte Yates, Vice President, Provost, and of Academic.
Hello.
Welcome to the program. And I have 3 other Vice Presidents joining us during this program as well. So let's start off here. So Franco, you are now the President for over a year. What have you observed?
Well, first of all, wonderful to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about the university and its plans. Well, what I've observed, first and foremost, is the incredibly powerful sense of community here. Okay. It's a phenomenal community. There's a very, very special community spirit that stands out here in Guelph, and I've used different terms or expressions over the months and year and a half that I've been here, the Guelph magic or that Guelph factor, that's something that makes it unique. And I think so much of that is about the people. Okay. And in many ways, that aspect of our community plays itself out in a big way within the university itself.
Okay. Could you describe to us what your job is as Vice Chancellor and President of the university, just briefly?
Well, essentially, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the University of Guelph. It's a 25,000 student university. We have many faculty and staff. Our core mandate is really our educational mandate, both around teaching as well as research. And a good way to think about that is if you think about that continuum of creating knowledge and disseminating knowledge through our teaching. And a big part of my job is really to be the steward of this great university. Okay.
Charlotte, now you are the Provost and Vice President Academic. Could you explain to us what your function is?
Okay, so a little bit of an unknown, I think, to many people. What on earth does a provost do? And in short, I'm what's called the Chief Academic Officer, and I think that has 3 major responsibilities. One is around academic planning and priorities. How do we develop the academic plans? How do we develop the curriculum, the overall academic mission to fit the broader mission of the university? Then the second piece is to make sure that the budget aligns with those academic priorities so that we have the resources and we invest the resources in ways to fulfill that. And finally, and very importantly, the provost's job is really to implement the vision, the mission of the president. It really is to carry through, to be that person that takes those steps needed to fulfill that.
So how have you felt about your transition to University of Guelph? You're the most recent VP
Yes,
we have.
I am, and I think I've just passed my 5-month mark, and it's been a wonderful transition, and I want to echo something said by Franco, and that's partly by the support from community, and I mean internal community and external. Faculty, students, staff have been incredibly helpful and supportive of me, willing to work both to orient me, but also to try something new, to think big, to develop new plans. So the transition's been great. It's been a new community as well, so a lot of learning about what is Guelph, what is that Guelph magic, and what is the intersection between the university and the Guelph community. And that's really a big part of what the learning process is for me.
Okay, that's very good. Now, Franco, at the present on the home page, I noticed that you're asking for the public help in the strategic renewal. Okay, again, it's asking it online and in social media. Could you explain that?
Well, first of all, the strategic renewal process was undertaken for a couple of reasons. It's really an opportunity to ask the question, where have we been, where are we today, and what does that look like in the next 5 to 10 years, as you mentioned. And it's very important, certainly to me and to the team and to the university in general, that we shine as many lenses as possible on that, on those questions and how we see ourselves moving forward. I think that there's a real appetite, I would say, for renewal and a certain buzz in the community, both within and outside the university, as we go through some of the changes we're going through. So we have set up a process that really involves gathering views, perspectives from our community, all aspects of our community, our students, our staff, our faculty internally, but also our many partners and stakeholders outside the university proper.
Yeah, I would think internally, as you discussed, is not all that difficult because they're inclusive at the university. But how do you intend to involve the public?
Yeah. So the public, largely one of the great things about the world and the times that we live in is, of course, through social media, we can really up our game in terms of connecting with the public.
Can.
And this is why we've really made sure that in this particular process we've highlighted social media means. But it doesn't stop there. I myself have directly reached out to the community. I've had a number of opportunities to connect with various groups, invited them to really hear the story, where we're at, and for me, more importantly, to hear from them. So that combination, I would say, of that face-to-face time with groups, and I'm out in the community a lot, and that's something that's deliberate and something I really look forward to as part of my job. But combining that face-to-face part of the process with a very intense social media piece to it as well.
Okay, Charlotte. So, how are you involved with respect to what Frank was just saying with respect to the academic component with the strategic renewal?
So I'm first of all engaged in terms of engaging in my part with my groups to find out their input to the strategic renewal process. So in a sense, I'm operationally involved, but more importantly, the strategic renewal process will provide us is laying out a series of goals, long-term objectives, and then my job is, what's the roadmap that looks like for us to get to that end point? How do we map that out around research, education, engaging our students, engaging faculty, the community in that? How do we mobilize the knowledge, the educational outcomes so that we have our students employed, so that we have an impact on our community through our research? So my job is to really develop that roadmap, engage with the constituencies, but also the strategic renewal process provides you with the big picture, the kind of bird's eye view, which is incredibly important to get a much bigger sense of where the University of Guelph fits within the globe, within our community, and for me to then find out, how do I make that become a reality?
Where do you get your information from?
Oh, my goodness, from all kinds of sources. So meetings, as you can imagine, lots of meetings with stakeholders, student groups, faculty, go to department meetings, the website, engaging with the community, reading very widely also about what other universities are doing, what research is taking place, where are the big innovations taking place around the world that we might learn from, but also where might we share our information to solve the world's problems.
Yes, of course. Okay, well that's very interesting. We're going to come to a break very soon. Now I have another question for you, which we'll save for the next segment. So here we have that University of Guelph is in renewal. We'll be back in a moment. And welcome back. We are looking at the next chapter of University of Guelph, and I have a new guest with us again here now, Malcolm Campbell, who is the Vice President of Research. Welcome to Talk Local.
Thank you very much, Martin.
So Malcolm, I guess I've asked the rest. Your role as VP Research, could you give us a rough idea what this entails?
Sure. Well, Martin, it's really a service leadership role, and by that I mean the Vice President of Research functions to serve the broader university community in the area of research. that entails a number of different elements. First of all, it's really focused on enabling our faculty members and our students to realize their research ambitions, helping them achieve the funding support, for example, that they need to support their research, putting the infrastructure in place to support that research, and providing them with a strategic vision to really realize their research plans. Another element of that role is communicating to the broader community what it is that we do at University of Guelph with respect to our research. Let the world know really what progress that we're making. And finally, it's working together with the executive team, with the provost, with the president, to make sure that we're realizing our overall strategic vision.
Okay, very good. I want to go back to that in a moment, but Charlotte, I want to ask you a question about the strategic renewal. Does that relate to the recent PPP? Now, that's understood as being program prioritization process, or does it not?
I think what it does is it takes what we learned from the PPP and then we build out from there. I think we have a new team, we have a new executive team, and in the last few months we've been building that team, you know how important it is that you work well together so that you build on the strengths of the University of Guelph. And I think that's what we're doing, is we're identifying what are the strengths. Where are the areas that we could invest, where we could nurture so that we reach kind of excellence around the globe, both in terms of teaching and research, but also in terms of our impact on the world. And so I think building on some of the foundations of the past is what our task is now, and to make sure that we realize the kind of mission, vision for the University of Guelph, but also build on what I think are integral links. We have a unique integrated space, I think, at the University of Guelph. And what I mean by that is that we pride ourselves on the fact that the educational piece is very tightly linked with the research piece. And hence, for example, Malcolm and I have to work very closely together, because not only are our faculty and students involved, but our research is very much about engaging with the community, impacting the world around us. And that integrated piece, that integrated way of looking at the world, of collaborating together, is key to Guelph, and that's what we're building on that we've learned.
Leads perfectly into my next question, Charlotte, and I'm going to read some of this. University of Guelph, within its mission statement, in part states, you're aware of it, research-intensive, learner-centered institution. And that statement refers directly to both of you who have here right now in the studio. But let me read you something from the Globe and Mail last week. So last week, Globe and Mail outlined, this is paraphrased to some extent, Ontario vows to take action to end decline in undergraduate education. This is to reduce institutional program duplication, along with large class sizes, too little contact with faculty, and strained student support services. Findings that it is more so an issue with research-intensive institutions, such that the balance between teaching and research has become skewed towards the latter. The ministry is indicating that it is working on a funding formula that would implement towards that direction. What would your comments be on that? Are we there already, or what is your comments on that one?
Can I start, Malcolm?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I think one of the unique spaces that Guelph occupies is that I would say that we've achieved, when we're speaking about integration between the two missions, I think we've achieved an incredible balance. So there's a richness to the Guelph experience for undergraduates as well as graduates around experiential learning, partly through research, partly through things such as co-op and so on.
Makes sense.
And that, of course, means we have better outcomes. Guelph is, in fact, in North America, a leader in learning outcomes. That's very much an emphasis for the government in terms of the new funding formula. Guelph is already many, many steps ahead of institutions.
You think you're already there from what the ministry is doing?
We're well
is what
ahead.
you're saying,
We're a benchmark for success in that area. There are other areas where we can build, but on that we're a benchmark for success. And I think in integrating, and I'm going to turn this over to Malcolm, that notion of where research fits in that broader academic mission and how the kind of student piece, faculty piece feed together is one where I think we've achieved a good balance, and we have lots to build on so that we show that the unique contribution of universities is, in fact, that research connected to the education piece.
Malcolm, your turn.
In some ways, Charlotte, as we've been working together with as a team for quite a while now. Well, not quite a while, I guess. Just
We're
over
fast learners.
Fast learners, exactly.
You both are.
I feel in many ways Charlotte has articulated beautifully exactly what I would say. I would amplify what it is that Charlotte has said by saying we've enjoyed an incredible history at University of Guelph over 150 years now of connecting the research enterprise with the educational mission of the university. So it's a long and honored tradition at our university where discoveries that are being made in the field, in the laboratory, in everyday society are conveyed to our students, and then those students function in a capacity to mobilize that knowledge into the world at large. So precisely to Charlotte's point, I think that we're already fulfilling precisely that mission that the government is looking for, in that we are connecting the research enterprise with pedagogy, with the learning experience, and connecting that with the world at large.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think a question to be answered is, do you engage third and fourth year students in what you're speaking of, that in fact that would engage in terms of scientific and teaching?
Absolutely.
Do we engage third or fourth year students?
That's
I think you
what
could
I asked
you could do even better, Martin. You could ask
Go
us,
ahead.
do we engage first and second year students? And the answer would still be yes. So we're engaging
That is
students
interesting.
in the research enterprise from the
Absolutely.
time that they are entering the university until the time that they graduate. And it's not just first, second, third, and fourth year undergraduates. It's also our graduate students as well. Of course, they are the engine, if you will, for research and discovery in Canada. And our university is no different. So at University of Guelph, you can view research and the teaching mission as being hand in glove or hand in hand. As
Malcolm, I got to interrupt because we're going to take a break very soon. Charlotte, quickly, what would you like to say? You got 30 seconds.
I would like to say that Guelph is well poised for a great future, and I think we're building on our strengths, and I think what you'll see over the next 5 years of this new leadership team with the rest of the community engaged with us is great things.
We're going to leave it there. Please come back with us as we look at what the direction UAG is going. Welcome back. Again, we're talking about the next chapter of University of Guelph. That is, what is the university going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years? And we have the people here that discuss that vision and how they're going about doing it, which is strategic renewal. Now, Franco, you were in the back and you heard Malcolm speak about VP research, and he described his vision. What is your role with respect to that?
Well, I have to tell you, this is a great opportunity to remind everyone that really the business of the university is fundamentally about learning and teaching. But what we need to remember is where knowledge fits into that. And at the university, we not only disseminate knowledge in the form of teaching, but we also create knowledge. And fundamentally, that's what the research mission is also. It's about excellence in creating knowledge, really creating new platforms for the future. As we live in a world, a very fast-changing, paced world, and research is absolutely fundamental to that, because how we create knowledge, how our students connect with that process is absolutely critical. And I will add, it's also a reminder for all of us that research is not just about the product of research, but it's also about the experience of research. So our students at the University of Guelph get an absolutely phenomenal experience with respect to research, and that teaches them problem-solving skills, analysis skills, and these are things that are very transferable and a big part of the experiential aspect of the University of Guelph experience.
Okay, so Malcolm, with respect to strategic renewal and VP research, which you are, could you describe some of the research strengths that make sense with respect to strategic renewal?
Well, through the strategic renewal process, I think we will identify specific themes, areas where the research that we're doing resonates with the broader community. But I'm going to focus on one that I am sure will emerge as a major strength of the University of Guelph, and that is knowledge in action. I talked in the last segment, for 150 years, University of Guelph has enjoyed a history of connecting research with the teaching mission, but it's also enjoyed 150 years of connecting research with the world at large, connecting what it is that's done within the academy, within the university, with the interests of society. with our founding colleges, that was in areas related to veterinary medicine, to what was then called home economics, one might view as being sociology and psychology actually today, and in the area, obviously, of agriculture. But over time, that's grown to encompass a vast array of different disciplines, from those traditional disciplines that I mentioned right through to the social sciences and humanities and the life sciences and the physical sciences in between. We take what's learned within a laboratory environment, within a research group, within archives, and move it into the world at large, either through informing people about the universe in which they live, or directly impacting the way in which they lead their lives. And I think that that's a real differentiator for the University of Guelph. That's what sets the university apart.
And how are you going to maintain that going forward? Is there going to be a change with respect to that philosophy?
I don't think we'll see a change in the philosophy. I think that's deeply embedded it's within the DNA, if you will, of the University of Guelph. Right. I think what we'll see is an accentuation of that, a recognition that functions as a key differentiator for our university, that knowledge in action, the mobilization of knowledge, and find ways of embellishing and enabling our researchers to better share their research with the world at large.
Would you like to add to that?
No, I think that this is it's a very important point. It's also a reminder of the importance that universities are institutions that need to adapt and need to adapt to change is absolutely central to how we move forward, and that is demonstrated in spades in our research mission. So when you think about the strategic renewal and that whole knowledge creation side of what we do, and bringing knowledge into action so it's meaningful to people, that's at the very core of our DNA. And I think what's changing is the centrality and the importance of that. For universities has never been more important because of the rapid cycling of ideas. As I like to say, the shelf life of ideas and knowledge is getting shorter and shorter. Yes. And so the need to kind of reinvent ourselves and revisit fundamental questions around our universe, around our fundamental knowledge just becomes essential.
Yeah. Okay. Malcolm, could you give some concrete examples of that where knowledge is changing and all of a sudden new items come in and we launch into University of Guelph? And some specific type that people can understand that we are actually doing in terms of what Franco was saying?
Well, I'd say one of the areas where we have certainly global prowess is in our understanding of the diversity of life that lives around us. So through the Biodiversity Institute of Ontario, a flagship program that we have at University of Guelph, a platform that we have for research at University of Guelph, we are characterizing at an unprecedented rate the organisms with which we share this planet. Now, the shelf life of knowledge of those individual organisms might be short-lived, but the way in which you use that knowledge to inform practices and policies, that is, the way in which we impinge upon the environment, the way in which we impinge upon biodiversity, and how we modify the way in which we interact with each other and the way in which we interact with the world at large, is an example of how you take that knowledge, you move it into action, and you make real differences in the way in which we interact with society. So the short shelf life may be on our knowledge of an individual species, but by gathering information about all the species that are out there, the estimated 8 billion species that are 8 million species that are out there, that is truly a resource that allows us to adapt and adjust accordingly as we interact with our environment at large.
Could you give me an example of other areas where it's an evolving situation that things happen in society that needs to be addressed and you're addressing it research-wise at UAG?
Sure, I'll take another example. Ajay Heble has the Center for Improvisation, and I think this speaks precisely to your point, Martin. Through Ajay's center, they're looking at the way in which improvisation has emerged as a cultural phenomenon. You see improvisation all the time in different art forms. Jazz is a great example of where you see musicians improvising together. It turns out that property of being human, the capacity to improvise, is really really important in disciplines outside of musicianship, outside of jazz, for example, and the capacity to improvise together, just as you're doing right now, asking me a question off the cuff.
I did.
It is an example of you improvising and me responding on the spot and entering into a new dialogue. We have situations that arise on the planet on, I would say, on an hourly basis that require the same sort of improvisation. Understanding that, developing a deep knowledge base for how improvisation functions and how you can use it is a really powerful example of University of Guelph generation of knowledge and moving that knowledge into
Malcolm,
action.
I've got to cut you, and thank you for coming. What I'm really pleased about what you mentioned, not only just went to science, you went to the arts component, you're the Office of Research, and you've done it well across the whole University of Guelph. Thank you for joining us,
Thank
and
you,
stay
Martin.
with us. We're going to have a new guest coming up very soon. And we're back again with a new guest, Don O'Leary, Vice President of Finance, Administration, and Risk. Don, welcome to the program. So Don, I asked the rest of them as well, what is your job as your VP?
Yeah, my job, my responsibilities are quite different than what you've heard from my colleagues so far this evening. My job is more on the business and operations sides of the side of the university. Something that we sometimes take for granted or maybe not always think about, but my area of responsibilities are finance, all the areas that would fall under the area of finance, human resources, physical resources, buildings, whether they be construction or maintenance, parking.
And that's
all those kinds
risky,
of
is it?
It can be risky at times, right, exactly. That's
Okay.
the reason for the last part of the title, yes.
Right. Fair enough. So, Don, you as being VP of the area you just described, how do you relate to Charlotte and Malcolm with respect to their roles?
Sure, absolutely. They've made the point that we're a team, and we definitely are a team, and we all work together.
How does that work?
That's important. Yeah, we discuss, we meet, we understand what priorities are. I think that's important for people to understand that work in my area is that we're in a support role to the academic mission and the research mission. And I think the folks that work with me certainly understand that we're a university, and our job is to do the best that we can to support the student, the academic mission, and our research mission.
And that would mean resource, meaning building classrooms,
whatever we can,
whatever needs to be refitted or rebuilt.
Absolutely.
All of that is under your
Absolutely,
direction.
yes.
The way the campus looks today, you are responsible.
To some extent, but it's to a very small extent.
Well, from going forward, it is.
Yes. Well, I am pleased with some of the things we've done the last few years.
Oh,
Definitely.
Good.
It's
Well,
been-
we'll go
it's been
through some
wonderful.
of that. So,
Yes.
Frank, so your relationship with Don's vision, how does that now work? That's how it all fits together.
Well, we've heard now from Charlotte, we've heard from Malcolm,
Yeah.
and many of those goals and the vision that we have in terms of our core purpose, if you will, around our academic and research mission, it's absolutely critical that we're able to sustain that. And often I talk about, I use the term sustainable platform, and in many ways, what I see Don's job and our relationship is focusing on is ensuring that we have that sustainable platform that is able to support those core that core mission of the university. Ideas are absolutely critical. We're in the business of ideas, but those ideas need to be sustainable. We need to understand the financial context for them. The university needs to be sustainable, both from a financial, from a physical asset point of view. So we need the buildings, we need the grounds, and I would also add that although it is true that research and teaching in many ways are central to what we do, for us to be a real destination of choice,
Yes.
a place that students, faculty, staff want to come to, is so much about it is about our facility.
It needs to be attractive.
It needs to be attractive. It's a magnet, and I'll tell you, Don's crew and his portfolio, and the work that they do to support the university achieves exactly that. And it's important to remember that often students, families that are considering, for example, the University of Guelph as an option, the first thing that they do is they come and they visit and they see the place. And that power of place is absolutely critical to the sense that they have of our university. Of course, our programs are at the core of it, but that impression is central to Don's role on the team.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I noticed over the years that the campus has gone into growth spurts and then not into growth spurts. Like back in the 60s, it was a huge growth.
Sure.
Back in the year 2000 to 2010, there's again a growth.
Right.
But now it's sort of slowed down a bit. It's not as much as it used to be. But let's go through some of what the University of Guelph is doing. If we could put up that first slide, and Don, if you could describe that one.
Yes, sure. The university continues to grow. We work from a capital plan, so you're right. We haven't grown. We haven't been investing to the same extent as a couple of years ago, but regardless.
It's a good breather for the university in terms of demand.
Even at that, though, there are always things going on when you have so many buildings. We have an energy, very proud of this energy retrofit program that we have, energy conservation and reduction program. The Board of Governors approved a $26 million program last year to improve systems, whether it be simple lighting systems in buildings or HVAC systems in buildings. But the key to that is a water tank, that cooling tank that we've built on College. And what we're going to do there is store 16 million gallons of water, and we're going to chill that water at night and off-peak electrical periods. And doing so saves us a lot of money because we're not chilling water in the summer when it's hot.
Energy conservation.
Energy conservation.
Okay.
So that is a significant investment.
You're going to put a big griffin painting on there for the
we definitely
for
are.
Our pride?
We definitely are.
Very good, very good. So we have another expansion going on at University of Guelph. If you could get up that second PowerPoint, that would be great. You could talk about that one momentarily. Looks like it's a while coming up.
There's been a lot of construction
Okay, anyway, so the athletic expansion is going on.
Absolutely.
That's one.
Yeah, we have invested significantly in our athletics facilities over the last 7 years. I was just in preparation for this show today, kind of looking at the total investment. It's been about $85 million. The jewel of that is the expansion right now of our Mitchell Athletics Center.
Okay.
That's a $45 million investment, so 170,000 square feet of new athletics space. Significant large gymnasium with a seating capacity for 2,000 students. Lots of work of fitness rooms, recreation facilities, change rooms, a contemporary modern facility that you would expect at a university of our size.
Okay, so the next PowerPoint will be our last one. It's to see in the research, that's Research Park.
Yes.
How are we doing there?
Yeah, we've been very successful with our research properties. You may know that we have about 200 acres around the university that have been developed for various purposes, and we're almost built out, and we've got to make some decisions about the future. But right now, this building that's underway is for a company called NSF. It's a product testing company. It's been here in Guelph for a few years, but they've decided to expand and to consolidate their operations out of Toronto and Burlington to Guelph. So that's a bit of economic development that the university brings to this community. Yes.
Okay, so Franco, would you like to comment on any of this?
Well, just to say, these are all absolutely terrific examples of both the value that the university brings to the community and the value the community brings to the university. It's that back and forth, and you see it played out in such important ways in the research park. The athletic center that you mentioned is also a reminder of the importance of not just mental fitness, which is very much a lot of what we're about, but also physical fitness.
Yes.
And that the importance of balance in that. And that also links to the experiential part of the student experience and how we want to ensure that as a destination of choice, we have opportunities for students that go beyond the classroom. And you see it in the research park, connections with our broader community. You see it in athletic center and beyond.
Franco, thank you very much for that. We'll see you again in a later segment.
Great.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. And yet we have another new guest, another vice president, in this case Daniel Atlan, vice president external. Daniel, welcome to Talk Local.
Well, thank you very much, Martin. It's great to be here.
It's nice to have you here. Now, we're looking at, again, of course, the next chapter of University of Guelph, as we well know about. And Daniel, you're the VP External. Could you explain what that role means for us?
Well, certainly, Martin. Well, it's actually a new role. The VP External was created actually about a year ago, and it's actually the vice president that's in charge of a lot of those key external strategic relationships to the university. So I'm in charge of fundraising and alumni relations, in communications and public affairs, and community relations and government relations.
Okay, that's interesting. So we finished a campaign not too long ago. It was a $200 million campaign was achieved. How was that money spent, or is it being spent? Any idea at this point?
Oh, absolutely. We are actually we achieved the most successful campaign actually in Guelph's history. I'm pleased to say that we actually achieved $203 million actually in that campaign. And that campaign has actually supported over 1,000 student scholarships and bursaries. Okay. And actually over 100 professorial positions as well, and actually chairs. So it's been a very strong campaign. It's the Better Planet Project is what the campaign was called. It also produced some capital infrastructure that would actually help support some of our projects at the,
An example
at the
of
university.
that?
An example of that would be actually the plant preservation project, which is used to actually preserve the elm tree. We also have one which is actually funding the engineering center as well.
Okay, good. So, Don, how do you get involved with this in terms of the money that's being spent?
Sure,
absolutely. Answer that one?
Absolutely. Well, the campaign was originally based on determining priorities. So, obviously, going into this, there were certain areas where we knew we had to improve in terms of some of the support. So, to Daniel's point, a lot of support for students. Obviously, financial support for students, helping them with their education. That helps the students financially, it helps the university financially, it brings students to the university. It helps them through their career as they're here at the university. Some capital programs, we use some of that money to build and to do things that we may not have been able to do.
Like, for example?
Well, some of the examples that are mentioned. A lot of work was done in OVC, for example, in the veterinary school that we were able to do with some of the stuff. New engineering programs and the expansion of engineering.
What about the athletic center that's being built now?
Yeah, athletic center, that's a really good story in that one of the big contributors to that are the students themselves. They imposed a fee on themselves each semester, and that has been very helpful in helping the university borrow and pay back debt, and that cash flow from student fees has been very helpful with a lot of athletics projects. So yeah, the campaign has been very helpful with the university's operations.
So by the sounds of it then, Daniel, it's been more helpful internally for the students for their benefit in terms of scholarships and all kinds of endeavors in that end to get a better education. It wasn't for building a whole lot of structures, as now we're finding out.
Yes.
Is that still money now still being spent in different areas to increase in that area, or where is it at now?
Well, student aid and actually faculty support is always actually a key driver for us. It's able to support actually, you had Malcolm and Charlotte on here in the earlier segment, and actually supporting a lot of what they do. That's the core function of actually the university. So we will continue to raise funds for that at every time. We'll also actually be raising funds for some of our capital projects, such as the athletic center and actually the McDonald Hall actually as well.
Yeah, okay. That was my next question, actually. So you are a fundraiser and ongoing after the campaign. Being the campaign was so heavily involved and people spent that money, is it difficult thereafter to continue fundraising?
It's always a challenge when you come out of a campaign, and it's a challenge because there's a little bit of fatigue sometimes within the internal community and certainly with the external community.
Oh yeah.
I must say that we actually had an amazing success because we actually engaged over 60,000 people actually contributed to the campaign. So it was very successful. It's actually as successful as much larger campaigns at other universities such as UBC. We actually attracted more sponsors actually and funders than actually UBC did for a $1.6 billion campaign. So that's a success. I think the great thing is that we've been able to maintain that momentum and actually maintain strong levels of support even outside of that campaign. I think that speaks very, very much to the relevance of actually our programming and actually the support of our broader community actually for the University of Guelph.
So I guess one way of getting fundraising going, you pick a specific project in OVC. I think it's one going on where you know exactly where you want it to go and sort of tailors it to one area that has a need and people fall in. That's how it's basically accomplished?
Well, absolutely. We certainly take a look and we have discussions with our decanal partners and certainly with Malcolm and Charlotte to be able to figure out what our biggest priorities are across the university. So with that, and we're going to embark upon this discussion actually in 2016, and that will be to determine the biggest priorities for each of the different faculties to get some new fundraising priorities to go forward. It's good to have actually a host of different ones, be they capital projects and also student support ones and new faculty ones. It's good to have a number of different properties to be out there in the market with. Because
you have a wide area to draw from for fundraising from almost A to Z, given the diversity of the campus itself, right?
Absolutely, and that's one of the great things about the university is there's that variety of actually strength to be able to offer.
Okay.
You made a point about money being spent. I should point out a lot of that money has not been spent. It's sitting in an endowment. We created a tremendous endowment of over $300 million.
Good.
So that money will be there for years and years and providing support to students for a long time to come. So I think it's important that that message be delivered.
Well, I'm glad to hear. Are there any capital projects close in the horizon now?
Yeah, most of the things that we're doing is back to your point. We're not there's no one big project at this point in time, but we do have a capital plan, and we have 125 buildings, and we do have to continually look at renewing those buildings, repurposing those buildings. You talk. We have McDonald Hall, which was a residence at one point in time. We're repurposing that now as the new home for the College of Business and Economics. That'll be done in the spring, and they'll move in the fall. So that's a $12.5 million project, and it's going to be a wonderful new home for the college. So,
Don, we've got about a half a minute left. Would you like to say something?
Well, I think we're excited about the strategic plan and where that may take us. I definitely, I know that people are looking forward to the direction that will take us. But being on television here now, I would like to also thank all of the folks that I work with, all my colleagues, for all the great work that they do. If they're watching this evening, we don't always take the time to say thank you to them, and they're great people, and they do great work, and they understand the mission that we have at the university.
Okay, Don, I'm going to cut you. Thank you for appearing on Talk Local. We wish you the best, and we got to go. Stay with us. And again, I have Franco Vaccarino again available here for the last segment of the program. So, Franco, as president, you're also called the external president. So, how much of that time is dedicated to your position?
Well, it's a big part of my job. Increasingly, universities and how they're understood, both not just within the university walls, but outside the university walls, is becoming increasingly important. And I think our connectivity with our community and with society at large is increasingly essential in terms of our future goals and roles. So we've heard about research, you've heard about teaching, and understanding how that connects with our communities is absolutely central.
Okay, so Dale, you must have a lot of interface then with Franco in terms of the external you are, and we've got an external president to some degree. So how do you value that? How is it invested?
Oh, that's invested. I probably, Franco and I probably actually go to a lot of different meetings together and all over the province, actually. We've been at the Ontario Economic Summit, we've been to Queen's Park, we've been to Ottawa together. And that's important as we take the message about Guelph out to the broader community, even outside of Guelph. but certainly in Guelph as well, we are at a lot of different community events and municipal events. It's so important for us because we have such a privileged role here in this community.
Yeah, so how do you deliver your message? It's quite broad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the message is broad, but it also has to be tailored to each of the different audiences as well. And that's the complexity, I think, of the world these days. And because the message is broad and we have so much to offer, it allows us to have, I think, conversations actually with a lot of different groups and individuals. And that's important because you have to be remaining relevant, and to be able to be relevant, you have to bring that message down to a local level. So whether you're talking about things that we're delivering at OVC in terms of our companion animal care or some of the incredible discoveries there, you can have a conversation there. Or you can certainly have conversations with everything else we're doing across the university.
So how do you decide, Franco, as to which areas you target? There's such a plethora of things that need to be done.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Well, at one level, Martin, we are a comprehensive university, so we do have a broad landscape, everything from the arts, the social sciences, right through to the biological sciences. But within that broader landscape, we have a particular sense of ourselves as the University of Guelph, and so we really try to extract from that broader landscape the platforms that make most sense for us moving forward. And I would actually add something that I think is important. As much as we get our message out in terms of our priorities, it's equally important that the message from our stakeholders, from our community, comes into us, because those messages help us determine what our priorities are as well. So we don't just determine our priorities from an inside-out perspective, but we also determine them by being informed from our external partners, our stakeholders, whether they be government, whether they be business partners, or community agencies. They all help us to understand ourselves. And that perspective taking is absolutely critical to how we organize ourselves and how we move forward.
Okay. So how do you and Daniel relate that back to internally within the university itself?
Well, in some ways, it's about lenses. What are the lenses through which we see and we understand the university, all of us? And it's important to look through as many lenses as possible. And so what we do, and Daniel's mentioned the various travels that we do together in terms of our broader external environment, we bring those messages back. We bring those messages back to the team, to the broader university, so that we internally understand how the outside world sees us. And then we look for alignment between our thinking and how we're seen. Okay. In a broader context.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we don't have a whole lot of time left, and want to make sure I can get this in. So Daniel, as external VP, what message would you like to leave with respect to strategic renewal with respect to University of Guelph?
Well, I think just this is an exciting time, actually, and I think you've had everyone speak to it. You've had Malcolm, Don, Charlotte, and Franco, and I think that I just want to let the community know that actually we're very excited about this, and we're very excited to partner, I think, even more strongly with the community. We want to hear more about what they want. We want to make certain that there's no walls between the university and the community, just as there isn't in real life, and there's actually a sort of a nice just pathway between the two
Franco,
places.
what would you like to say? We have a little time. 1 minute left.
Well, I mean, I'd like to say the following, that you've heard a lot about the plans and the thinking about the future tonight, and our viewers have heard a lot about our thinking as we move forward. And if you walk into any one of our offices, you will see piles and piles of papers and documents. At the end of the day, people bring those documents to life. It's all about people. And I would say that my message would be to remember that through all this, it's our people that actually lift the university and bring our university to life.
We have to wrap it up. I want to thank you, Franco, for appearing, and Daniel as well, and all the rest of the VPs that are watching in the back. So here we go. The next chapter, University of Guelph, has been discussed. I hope you appreciate it. Join us again on Rogers TV, and we have other programs of interest to you. For now, that's it. See you later. Good night.
Thank you.